What's that? All right. So before I begin, I got a question for people, everybody here. How many here have known somebody who has gone hundreds of feet underwater? No? Nobody? Well, good. Now, what's that?
100 feet, but in a submarine.
You know someone who was on a submarine?
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Oh, and for those who do know somebody, if it's me, don't raise your hand. Well, good. Now y'all know someone who is hundreds of feet underwater. That's me. I promise it'll make sense. What time do I have until?
I guess like 7:45.
7:45. Okay. And for those who don't know me, my name is Vaishnava Dasa. It's been quite a while since I've come here to the Saturday evening satsang. And I'm very honored to speak here, and this might be my first time giving a class here at the temple, so for either everyone's fortune or misfortune, but anyway, I digress, and let's begin. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Givadari Jana Vallabha Givadari Yashoda Nandana Varjana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Varjana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Varjana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Munatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Allow me a few minutes just to get a little set up here. I have a trusty book and a couple other trusty books. All right. Where to start? Okay. So today's theme has been two things. It's been rain, like rainfall, even though we haven't had rainfall today, and the topic of like diet and prasadam. I just didn't want to speak too close because if my mouth is too close, then it just gets blown out. Yeah.
It was easier for you.
Oh, thanks. This is good, everybody. Oh, and also, last thing I want to acknowledge, that if anyone is online listening, thank you very much for tuning in. Hare Krishna. Today is the 20th of May, Saturday evening here at ISKCON San Diego. So because I was thinking, well, wasn't thinking, these two things just kind of came up throughout the day, throughout the morning and in the afternoon, and then later in this evening I said, well, I guess that's what I'm going to talk about is rain and diet. So the verse that I'm going to talk primarily about is from chapter 3, verse 14. If people are familiar, probably more familiar than I am, to be honest. So it goes as so. And I forgot my glasses, so I have to like really hold the book up close. Anad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anasambhava yagyad bhavati parjanyo yajña karma samudbhava. So the translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is, all living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajña, or sacrifice, and yajña is born of prescribed duties. Before I go on a little bit further, I'm going to read another prayer. It's really, I'll be honest, it's really difficult for me to memorize Sanskrit shlokas and prayers. I actually used to have 314 memorized, and then I forgot it. So this is why I always have this little handy book with me. I'm going to say a prayer to my Guru Maharaj and the disciplic succession. Om Jnana Tiramanyasya Gyananjanas Shalakaya Chakshru Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, blinded by the darkness of ignorance. With the torchlight of knowledge, I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to Sri Parampara. Okay, back to the verse. So another question I have: are there any visitors here this evening, visiting from out of town? Oh, wow! If you mind me asking, from where?
From Seattle.
Oh, everyone from Seattle? Oh, you're from San Jose. Okay. So Seattle and San Jose. All right. Excellent, excellent. Oh, thank you. I only hope I make your visit here to San Diego as at least a little bit enjoyable. How long are you all here in San Diego for? Driving back tonight. Oh, and for you from Seattle, are you here till tomorrow, or? Oh, all together. Oh, okay. Oh, bummer. I was hoping you guys would be here for tomorrow evening. We have a big ceremony tomorrow evening. People are getting initiated. So for those who don't know, people are getting initiated. You should be here tomorrow evening. Well, thank you for coming. And when you do get on the road, safe travels to you. But all right, I digress. Yes, all living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajña, sacrifice, and yajña is born of prescribed duties. Where was I going with this? Because I knew I was going to talk. Oh yeah, so I grew up also in Northern California as well, so I'm very familiar with rain. I actually very much love the rain, and for our visitors from Northern California and from Seattle, you guys you guys get a lot more rain than what we normally get down here. And of course, for everyone who lives here in San Diego, we know that we just went through a winter time where we had tons and tons of rain. It was like record rainfall. And I'll tell you one thing, what kind of inspired me on this verse was the past couple years we've been in droughts, and I've been praying for rain, and then we had sustained drought, and then Krishna answered my prayers, and we got just tons of rainfall, and we had so many atmospheric rivers come through, which has been great. It's been fantastic. Now, I'm not going to take credit for that. I wasn't the only person praying for rain. I wasn't the only person performing our spiritual duty to get the rain to make the grains that provide a nice prasadam for us. But I'm very happy that what little effort I could contribute made that happen. So that's what inspired me for this verse. I'm going to read a little bit of the purport just to continue on. So the purport from Srila Prabhupada starts, Srila Baladev Vidyabhusana, a great commentator on the Bhagavad Gita, writes as follows. Now, there's a lot of Sanskrit. I'm not going to read the Sanskrit. Let's go into a little bit of the English translation. The Supreme Lord, who is known as the yajña-puruṣa, or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all the demigods, who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Yeah. Demigods like Indra, Candra, and Varuṇa are appointed officers who manage material affairs, and the Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food grains. Let's stop right there real quick. I remember, for those for those who are on the internet and for those who are not aware, our main diet is vegetarianism. And I remember, so earlier I asked the question, how many people have known someone who was on a submarine, and that was me. Well, that was me. And what happened was I was on the submarine from 2012 to 2016, but I came across the Hare Krishna movement, the Sankirtan movement, in early 2014. In fact, actually, this little temple bhajan book was given to me by a brahmachari at the LA temple, which was the first temple I ever visited. That was the LA temple, and I still have it to this day, along with a few other books that he gave me. I absolutely love this book. It's been great. So when my first weekend at I didn't spend the weekend at the LA temple, but I went to the LA temple for two different events, 2 days in a row. And during that encounter, I decided, okay, I'm going to go vegetarian, no problem. So I did, and then have the have the weekend in LA with the devotees. It was my older sister took me there, so I was with my older sister and again with the temple devotees in LA. And after that weekend, I drove back down here to San Diego because I was stationed here in the Navy. And for those who know, the submarine base is at the very tip of Point Loma. And so that's where I was staying, and went back to the boat. And when I went back, I didn't really tell anybody that I decided to stop eating meat and become vegetarian, stop drinking alcohol and whatnot. They just kind of figured it out on their own, which is easy to do because the crew on a submarine is a small. It's not a lot of people, so everything you do is seen by everybody, and so they picked up very fast that I had stopped eating meat. But what I didn't expect was the reaction to it. My goodness. Now, to be fair, this wasn't everybody. Not everybody on the boat reacted this way, but there were certainly a number of people that stick out in my mind from that chapter in my life. When I'd have a plate of food in the crew's mess, and it was all vegetables and rice and beans, and somebody would say, "Hey, where's the meat?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm not eating meat anymore." And it was like they reacted as if I hit their dog or something like that. It was crazy. They not everybody, but some people did. They said, "Oh, this is blasphemous. This is un-American. This is communist. This is fascist. This is terrorist." And I thought, "Whoa, oh my goodness! Here I am. I'm just doing my own thing. We're wearing the same uniform. You know me. I know you. Why all this why all this flack all of a sudden?" But so I'll be honest, that was not fun. That part was not fun. But I did get a little bit of revenge. Not revenge, but what's the right word I'm looking for? Well, I can't think of it. I got a little bit of come to me. in the moment. Vin, no, not Vinjas. What's that?
They got the comeuppance. Right. Revenge is not.
Well, no, it wasn't type of revenge. Vindication. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Vindication. So, fast forward. This was 2014, and I was just about to go on my second deployment. And then in 2016, I went on my third one, and by this time, the people that gave me a lot of flack, because the way the Navy works is you have a lot of people rotate off, more senior people rotate off, you make rank, and then more newer junior people come to the boat. It's a constant cycle. So that process had happened, and we ended up pulling into Singapore. And has anyone here been to Singapore before? Oh, you have? Okay, you have too? Excellent. Oh, all right. So for those who haven't been to Singapore, there's an area called Little India. I'll get into that just a little bit. So we're going to get into how I took some fellow sailors to the ISKCON temple in Singapore, the Gita Reading Society. Very fitting name based on what we're doing right now. But anyway, so we pull into Singapore, and we're able to go out into the city, but there's certain rules that would have to be followed, such as you have to be at least a group of 3, and one person has to be the designated non-alcohol drinker. So suddenly I went from being like a scorned person to being a pretty hot commodity, because people knew that all they had to do is just have me in their group, and they can go into Singapore and do whatever they want to do, albeit within the rules, because Singapore is a very strict place. They can do what they want to do, right? So I said, okay, but here's the deal. Yeah, I'll be part of your group, but here's the deal. I want to go into Little India, and I want to find the ISKCON temple there. And they said, yeah, no problem. No, it's not a problem. So, so we go, and we get into Little India, and I have no idea what I'm looking for. This is before a time when, cell phones had wide range of usage internationally, and it's a bit more, how do I say, I kind of had to do things more on the fly than having something right at my disposal to look up. So we go in, and I'm looking for his temple. I don't know if it's going to be a huge temple or a really small one. For those who don't know, the ISKCON temple in Singapore is pretty small. It looks like a small storefront, but then you go in, and it's a temple very much like this, a bit smaller and but very nice. And so we're kind of wandering around Little India, myself and 3 other people from the submarine, and they had never been to an ISKCON temple. They had I won't say never had any interaction with Krishna consciousness, but they were definitely not the type to like seek it out on their own. So so for those who haven't been to Little India, there are really big temples there, but they vary. Like one's a Shiva temple, another one's a Vishnu temple, and so forth, so on. They're very nice, and they're absolutely worth visiting. I definitely want to go back. Excuse me. But it wasn't the exact temple. I was looking for the ISKCON temple because I wanted. Because let me tell you, it's one thing to show up to an ISKCON temple in Singapore and say, "Hey, I found the temple, and I'm visiting from San Diego, and I just got off a submarine." I mean, it was quite. They were very much taken aback by that, the devotees that were there. So we go from temple to temple, and the guys are actually having a good time. The guys that come with me, fellow submariners, they're having a good time, and but we kept on hitting I wouldn't say the wrong temple, but not the ISKCON temple. So we go from one temple to another, and they very much like it. And actually, one of them mentioned to me, this is probably one of the most, how do we put it? This is one of the most cultural moments I've ever had in my entire life because how he phrased it. But finally we find the ISKCON temple, but it turned out it's closed. They open in the evening, and this was early afternoon. So I said, okay, let's if you guys want, we can go back to the downtown area where there's like bars and restaurants. They wanted to go to the bar and do their thing, and say, okay, we can do that, and then we come back to the ISKCON temple. And they're like, okay, great. So we do that. And I will say they were on their best behavior. They didn't do anything crazy at the bar or anything like that. They were very, very classy, very, very well mannered. And so we come back to the ISKCON temple when it's open. We go in, we interact with devotees there. I pay, I give Dhanavats to Srila Prabhupada, and one of the people. Then I gave Dhanavats to the Jagannath Baladev Subhadra deities they have there. And then it was really surprising. One of my fellow sailors said, "Oh, that looks cool. Can I try that?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I showed him how to do Dhanavats, and so he did Dhanavats to Prabhupada and then to the deities. And then we were there for a little bit, and then one of the devotees there said, "Hey, you gotta, just walk down the street a bit and turn right. You gotta check out this other temple, and then you gotta go to this vegetarian restaurant right across the street." I'm like, "Okay." So we do that. Get to the vegetarian restaurant, and by this time it's pretty late in the day, and they're getting hungry, and I say, "All right, let's hey, we should go to that restaurant. It's just right across the street. They have really good vegetarian food." They're a bit apprehensive about the vegetarian food. I'm like, guys, trust me, you're gonna like this. You're gonna like this. So we go in, and it's all South Indian cuisine. They have the big long dosas and the big dosas, and I noticed that they had mango lassi. And so I told the guys, my guys, get the mango lassi. You're gonna love it, trust me. And so they order it. They kind of sip on it a little bit, and then it just gone, disappeared. They scarfed it, and then they order dosas. Dosas come. They kind of nibble on a little bit, and then after nibbling it for a little bit, they just completely inhaled it, like it just gone. And they loved it so much. Some of them loved it so much they actually ordered seconds. And I was just taking it. And let me go on a side tangent here. In the Navy, it's very customary to be called, to address each other by your last name, as long as you're as like similar rank and below. So my last name is Southall, and so that's what they addressed me as. They're eating this vegetarian food. "Oh, Southall, this vegetarian food, it's so good." And I'm sitting there shocked because, again, a couple years prior, same people wearing the same uniform, not the same people, but similar people wearing the same uniform were completely chastising me for not eating meat and being un-American and communist and terrorist and fascist, blah blah blah, and so I thought, wow, this is my moment of redemption here. It's great, but it gets better. So the next day we get back to the boat, and we all of us stay on the boat. It's really the only place for us to stay. So the next morning I wake up. I couldn't go back into Singapore. I had to stay on the boat, do regular boat stuff, which is called a duty day. And but unbeknownst to me, and I didn't know this until way later that night, that some of the same guys had taken other people from the boat. They went into Singapore. They went into Little India. I don't know if they went to the ISKCON temple, but they for sure went back to the same exact vegetarian restaurant. And they all had vegetarian food there, and they all came back to me and said, "Oh, Southall, this vegetarian food, it's so good. Man, that vegetarian food you eat, man, it's amazing." And I was like, and so that was my moment of redemption, and from earlier getting so much flack. So I'm trying to think where to go on from that. By the way, that's my favorite Navy story. I absolutely love. What brought me to Krishna? In early 2014, I I called up my older sister, and she lives in LA. And at the time, she lived about a mile away from the LA temple, our temple in LA, in Culver City, on Watsika Boulevard. Yeah. And I did not know about this place this temple at the time. And so she called me up and said, hey, how would you like to come up here and we'll go visit a Hare Krishna temple? And I said, yeah, sure. I actually had a little bit of awareness of the movement, because way back in the day, when I was an undergrad at I was an undergrad at UC Santa Barbara, so I graduated from there a number of years ago. And one of the classes I took was a Civilization of India class. I took it as an elective, and because I was figured, wow, it sounds cool to me, and I didn't know a better class to take. So I took that class, and the Hare Krishna movement was mentioned pretty briefly, but enough that I remembered it. And so when she said Hare Krishna, I'm like, yeah, that sounds really familiar. So, and plus, also my mom is a huge Beatles fan, and so she made me a Beatles fan. And my favorite Beatle was George Harrison, who is of the Beatles. He is the most active with Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON and just the Sankirtan movement in general, chanting Hare Krishna and whatnot. Anyway, so we go to the temple, the LA temple, and I was really taken aback by how nice the devotees were, how genuine they were. There's a value that we cherish quite a bit in the Navy. It's called integrity, and I noticed that there was a lot of integrity with devotees as well. So, like for example, here in the Bhagavad Gita, it explicitly says to that's important to maintain a vegetarian diet. So I had the prasadam there, and I was hooked right away. It also helped that I had been vegetarian prior in my lifetime. There was a period of about like 4 or 5 years where I was vegetarian, and then I reverted to meat eating, and then when I came across the LA temple, then I dropped that and permanently adopted vegetarian lifestyle, and so the rest is pretty much history from there. I actually, besides the Temple Bhajan book, the first brahmachari I met there also gave me the Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, it wasn't this copy. I should have kept that copy because I brought it with me on the submarine, and I read it during my deployment, during my off time. And then when I got back, I found out that there was a temple here in San Diego, and came around and was associating with the devotees more often, and this happened. So actually, and it was really, it's been fantastic because for a number of reasons, but shortly after, one main reason, I wouldn't say main reason, but one big thing that happened was shortly after I was honorably discharged, I had the great fortune, the great opportunity to go to travel in India for about 11 months actually, and I was serving a sannyas for most of that time. I was serving a Maharaj in Vrindavan, and it was fantastic. And then I came back here. I took shelter of my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Giriraj Swami, who then later on initiated me as Vaishnava Das. And a little bit about me. I live outside the temple. Until just recently, I was a full-time student at San Diego State to earn a master's in public health and epidemiology. And so, during the school year, I'd go to class, and then when I was available, I'd come here. Usually I'd come here Thursdays, Saturday mornings, and Sundays. So it's actually very unusual for me to be here Saturday evening, because I come here Saturday morning to do seva. I cook for the deities in the morning. and I live a bit away from the temple, so much so where it's like most of the time if I go back to where I live, it's not exactly a hardship to come back, but it definitely takes a decent amount of time and gas. So I'm very fortunate to have been asked to lead the class this evening. I hope I did at least a halfway decent job, because I'm I cannot claim to be a very qualified person to talk about Bhagavad Gita, but I hope I do my best. So thank you, and I'm very much open to take any other questions at this point.
Thank you, Vaishnava.
Yeah.
Nice to see that a Marine or Navy guy becomes a devotee.
Yeah, well, one thing I forgot to mention is that, and I'm sure everybody here knows it or is aware of this, and for anyone who's online listening to this, as we all know, the Bhagavad Gita takes place on a battlefield, and so that's one thing that drew me in, because being in the Navy, it's not like I saw combat, but we were trained to fight, and so that actually very much was intriguing, is that it takes place on a battlefield.
I hope everybody, all Navy guys or Marines or military guys, read Bhagavad Gita.
I left that copy of the Bhagavad Gita on the submarine for other people. So, and actually, I'll give you another quick Navy Krishna consciousness story. Before we went to Singapore, so we were here in San Diego. There was actually one person from the boat who came here, from the submarine who came here, and also he was part of the group that was with us in Singapore. So he's been to this ISKCON temple, and he's been to the ISKCON temple in Singapore. So he's got very fortunate in that regard. I don't know if he's been going to any others, but the funny thing, so he came here for our Sunday program, and he very much liked the prasadam, that's good. You got to win him over with the prasadam, right? I mean, it's just like it happened to me. It won me over with the prasadam, and so the next day, Monday, I was on the boat, and I was doing something, and he walked past me. I saw him walk past me, and then he turned around and he's like, "Hey, Southall." I'm like, and I poked my head up. It's like, "Hare Krishna," and then he walked off. So that was really nice.
Thank you very much for your nice talk.
Thank you very much.
And, we'll have the last darshan now at 8:15.
Mm-hmm.
For 15 minutes, 8:15 to 8:30. Meanwhile, we'll have the sadhana.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.